So in the crypto market, we've had a great post-election pump. Numbers have been very good. Right now, the focus is primarily on Bitcoin as it's reaching new all-time high after new all-time high. And then after that, of course, the altcoins are going to kick in once Bitcoin settles down a little bit. But if you're anything like me, personally, I've been around for now 3 bull markets and 2 bear markets. You're going to want to ask yourself, how long is the uptrend going to continue? Because, and I'll speak for myself now, just kind of personally, looking back even at my second bull market, the last one in 2021, I could have optimized that better. I could have timed my exits a little bit better, and I could have taken way more profit. So I look back certainly with some regrets. And so today's video is all about optimizing our strategy with relation to timing. We're going to take a look at some of the leading market theories out there right now so you can take better and in fact full advantage of Bitcoin's conditions. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie, and this is Altcoin Buzz. I wish you all the very best of luck if you choose to invest genuinely, but I'm not a financial or investment advisor. Remember that, as well as the fact that by extension, this video is not official financial or investment advice. Okay, let's begin with some wide-angle perspective here. We have to talk about the traditional 4-year cycle in crypto. That does apply to the entirety of the crypto market for the most part, including all the altcoins, of course, but that's based pretty much entirely on the schedule of Bitcoin's halving, which happens every 4 years. And by now, you know, if you're following this, certainly if it's your second bull market or perhaps even your third, or you have more under your belt, by now it's very likely that you're familiar with the theory out there that is most commonly presented, or that I guess can be originally attributed to Plan B, that concerns itself specifically with these cycles as they relate to Bitcoin's halving schedule. And I'm talking about stock to flow here. Now, we attribute that to Plan B. Stock to flow is something that's always existed in other markets. So you can consider stock to flow when it comes to commodities like gold, for example. But Plan B specifically is the analyst that took this model and applied it to Bitcoin really in a pretty intelligent way. This is genius level thinking. Again, this was done at a time when nobody else was discussing it. So we got to give him credit and kudos and props here. He first tweeted about stock to flow and its effect on Bitcoin pricing specifically all the way back in 2019. Nobody else was discussing this. It was a very novel idea here, so much so that I really have trouble overstating how important it was in terms of strategically and analytically mapping these cycles. And of course, the idea here is that every so often, including just recently, he repeats his 4-year cycle theory. That theory is based on the premise that at each halving, each time the Bitcoin reward is halved, the flow gets smaller by half. And you can apply this, like I said, to other commodities like gold, for example. There's X amount of gold in the world. There's X amount that is produced every year as a result of mining. And so you have a fixed supply that exists, plus a certain amount that is being added to that fixed supply every year. Bitcoin has the advantage of kind of having an inverse stock to flow model, right? There's a max supply of 21 million. We'll never have more BTC than 21 million. And you have less and less and less that trickles out every 4 years as a function of that halving programming. Right now, following the halving in April 2024, we have 450 BTC that are hitting the market every day as a result of mining. So this theory actually says that there are 2 different 2-year cycles in each 4-year cycle from one halving to the next. One is a bull cycle, and then on the flip side of that, one is a bear cycle. Notice here the step up pattern, the flattening, and then the downtrend before the next step up. These are the microcycles within that 4-year megacycle. And specifically, stock to flow as applied to Bitcoin states that the bull cycle takes place between 6 months before the halving to 18 months after the halving. So again, the bull cycle starts 6 months before Bitcoin's halving and then continues for another 18 months after the halving. And going by the data here, yes, there are little anomalies here and there, but for the most part, this is pretty much what the cycles follow, at least according to this chart. The most recent halving was on April 19th, 2024. So again, we have to take that date and then subtract 6 months because according to stock to flow, the bull cycle begins 6 months before the halving. That means that 6 months prior would have placed us at October 19th, 2023, theoretically at least, as the beginning of the bull cycle. And you know what? When you go back and verify, there may be something to this, because we're looking here at the beginning of October, end of September, beginning of October 2023. So let's zoom in on that date specifically that I cited, October 19th. There we have it, October 19th, 2023. The price of BTC at that time was $28,715. Today's price, as I record, is actually doing pretty well, up a couple of percentage points, $92,453. We're looking at about a 220% roughly ROI in those 13 months. It's pretty hard to do better than that without gambling in the meme coin casino. So that's pretty good. And it's also, zooming out a little bit farther, a pretty good indication of when things really started to kick off. Again, early October 2023, you can see a very clear uptrend that started at that time. An ROI like this in such a relatively short period of time, with the relatively reduced risk that Bitcoin presents versus any other crypto, let alone meme coin, is unmatched in pretty much any industry. There is no place to get a better risk to reward ratio than this. If we zoom out a little bit further here, we'll go to the max chart on BTC to get a wide angle perspective. We can see that the last bear market in Bitcoin was from November 2021 at about 65,000 there to its most recent low in November 2022. On the latter date, BTC was recorded as only being $16,171. That is a decline of 75% in just 1 year. So the real bull market in Bitcoin started in late 2022 with market-crushing returns for holders and DCA investors. And look, other than the choppy, slightly downward trend from March through early September this year, it has been more or less up only. A little volatility, yes, of course, but the macro trend has been upwards. So the cycle, or at least the bull market, started earlier than 6 months before halving. It probably started about 11 months before that. And if you had waited 11 months, instead of buying at $16,171, you would have bought at $28,715 or 75% higher. Now, there are some arguments to suggest that this cycle theory, this whole stock to flow theory, no longer really applies. There are a couple of scenarios here that we'll explore in terms of analyzing that point. And for that, we have to discuss two other potential scenarios for the Bitcoin bull market. Now, if this 4-year cycle no longer applies, this stock to flow theory, well, then it's worth considering another couple of ideas here. Here's the first, scenario number 1. This is the ETF effect, because we cannot ignore the effect of the Bitcoin ETFs. In just 1 day, for example, last week, BlackRock's ETF bought $778 million worth of Bitcoin at an average price of $88,000. So that's 8,840 BTC. At a total of 450 new BTC hitting the market every day from miners, like we said earlier, this means that in only 1 day's worth of purchases, BlackRock bought 19 days worth of Bitcoin from a production perspective. And that's just BlackRock. That's only one player among many in this space. And so you can see what I'm getting to here is the fact that a supply crunch is happening right before our eyes. It's certainly already here. Demand is not slowing down, but supply is increasingly reducing. It's increasingly less available, of course, as an asset. To be clear, there will still be a bull and bear market cycle in Bitcoin due to profit taking or too much leverage in the system, or those thinking that Bitcoin will never go down ever again. It's just investor psychology guarantees the fact that we will have bull phases and bear phases. One complements the other, yin yang, all that. That's going to continue. But that being said, if this trend with ETF buying also continues, then other than a massive ETF sale or black swan event, the bull markets will likely be longer, and the bear markets, as a tendency, will shorten, possibly even be shorter than the 2-year cycles that we've typically seen. So that was scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 here that we want to consider is kind of geopolitically speaking, countries introducing and then holding a Bitcoin reserve. President-elect Donald Trump has actually hinted at this while on the campaign trail. And it's possible that the US is going to choose to hold a strategic Bitcoin reserve. If you think of other commodities, other assets, other resources, one quick example here that most people are probably familiar with is the strategic US oil reserve. That's something that's held for all kinds of different reasons, but that's holding on to an asset strategically and kind of for a rainy day, perhaps emergency situations. And there's no reason why the same strategy can apply to an asset like Bitcoin. And the chances of the United States holding such a strategic Bitcoin reserve are probably increasing due to the influence of incoming Vice President J.D. Vance, who is a Bitcoin holder. And of course, President-elect Trump also is speaking to Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk's, and crypto holdings for them, especially Bitcoin, are something that they're familiar with, or probably something, arguably, that they'd be likely to advise. In fact, I think it's likely to say that they will both, and probably other people too, will also advise Trump on the soundness of such a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Let's just kind of go hypothetical here. Let's assume it's something that's being discussed and there's some traction that develops. What happens from there? Well, conventional wisdom, especially on Crypto X, is going to tell us that game theory will kick in and it's going to be a race to get a Bitcoin reserve at a reasonable price before it climbs to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, or even $1 million eventually per BTC. Because strictly speaking, according to that game theory, you're going to want to get in sooner rather than later. It's going to be a bit of a digital economic arms race in a sense. And therefore, it's also conceivable that nations will try to get some buying in ahead of time. They're going to try to front run that buying and thereby get ahead of the Americans a little bit, since Trump doesn't officially take office until the second half of January. It is a fascinating political situation and one that has all kinds of different contingencies and branches that it can evolve into. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. But I personally do think that there's some pretty sound logic to this. El Salvador provides us with an excellent example of what happens with a reserve. They no longer need the IMF for funding help. They also paid off their bonds and are in a better financial position as a country than ever before. In the last year, Alpha subscribers following our calls have profited 35x the subscription price. This includes $3,000 worth of airdrops, TIA and DYM among others, $1,700 worth of free NFTs, and multiple book profit calls. Altcoin Buzz Alpha is a highly rewarding service, and we're grateful to our Alpha members who have supported us during the past year. Let's be honest, we've seen some extreme bear market conditions during this period. And for this reason, we've kept highly subsidized pricing for Alpha. But now the bull market is starting to rear its head, and we have big plans for upcoming days and weeks and months. We are thus going to be increasing the prices of Altcoin Buzz Alpha effective on the 21st of November. Increasing our prices is going to help us grow the research teams working behind the scenes to deliver this value and to continue growing and sharing even more rewarding opportunities with our Alpha subscribers. So I am letting you know right now, this is the last chance you have to lock your Alpha subscription in at the current price for a full year. We're going from $15 per month to $29.99, and our yearly plan, currently at $165, is going to $299.99. So like I said, you have until the 21st of November to lock in that $165 USD price. Be sure to note that your Patreon subscription includes Patreon and Discord access. However, the Subscord subscription does not include Patreon access. The content here is the same for both. However, there is a separate Patreon chat on Patreon's platform. So if you'd like access to the Patreon chat in addition to the Discord chat, we suggest that you subscribe to Patreon. We are recommending the yearly plan because it helps long-term portfolio building. It supports constant chat with Altcoin Buzz. It ensures regular health checks of portfolio coins, portfolio rebalancing, timely buy and sell calls, and you can avoid missing timely content due to payment lapses. You're also going to get our advice on regular DCA levels and weekly alphas that have the potential to explode at a later date. Just one example is our 6x peak. That was the result of the work we started in May 2024 on PEAQ. If you want to take advantage of this sale, you will need to upgrade your membership to the yearly option in order to lock in the current prices for 1 year. Check out the links below for both Patreon and Subscore, depending on which platform and payment type you would like. But click on those in order to lock in your $165 per year plan before the increase on November 21st. If you have any other questions or if you just want to chat, you can also reach us on Discord. At the end of the day, technical analysts and those who research Bitcoin extensively don't even know what to make of this market. And nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can see the future with perfect 20/20 accuracy. Rect Capital, a popular trader, sees it one or possibly two ways, both of which we've mentioned here already. Another popular trader, Crypto Con, sees actually one more cycle growing to the top of this market, and he's basing that opinion through the use of tools like RSI and Bollinger Bands. Nobody knows for sure, but history and pattern recognition can likely help us give some ideas and give us a sense of the probabilities here to work with in order to kind of justify our actions, right? The only thing everybody seems to know for sure is that the bull market is not over yet, and price expectations in this market are in the six figures. Some say 100K, 120K. The optimists are looking at about 300K. I'm personally tripling the previous all-time high of, let's call it $69,000, and then backing off a little bit to be conservative. So $150,000 or so is what I'm considering. I know that's a fuzzy prediction, but the point is I'm going to be ready to take action and evaluate the circumstances once we're kind of in that zone. It is going to be a fun ride, and it's going to be great to see what happens here. Let me know your thoughts, your predictions, your insights on game theory. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments below.